a lot of times people, no matter if it's our career or, other careers, when they're faced with things like that, people tend to give up and try something else or move on or whatever. But all three of us and in countless hundreds, thousands more in the profession who've done similar things, we keep coming back. And we keep coming back because there's something that we love about the profession that just keeps us going.
Welcome to ArchiSpeak, a fortnightly podcast about all things architecture. My name is Evan Troxel, and I'm one of your hosts along with Neil Pan and Cormac Phelan. Have you ever wondered what it's like to work in the profession of architecture? Have you ever worked with an architect? Have you ever wanted to be an architect? Maybe you're in school and don't know what you're getting yourself into, or perhaps you know exactly what it's like because you've been working in the profession for a long time, and you know that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Or maybe, just maybe, you're planning on changing the world. Join us as we have a casual conversation about our passion, architecture. It's time for some ArchiSpeak.
Welcome to episode 85 of the ArchiSpeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
And this episode of ArchiSpeak is sponsored by ArcCat. And we're also welcoming a new sponsor, DBI or David Brown International. We'll talk about both of them a little later in the show. But next up, we have a friend of the show to announce.
We have a brand new friend of the show from Canada, and that is Colin Brown, who has been listening to us on his commute. And we appreciate the donation, Colin, because it helps make this show possible. And we would love it if you go to archispeakpodcast.com/donate, where you can donate, and anything over $5 will get your name read on the show if you so choose. And like I said, it helps make this show possible. So we really appreciate it. And that's it for the new friends of the show.
All right. So, Cormac, you had a topic you wanted to get us started up with this week. What was that?
Sure. Well, like Colin, got a long commute and listened to a whole slew of podcasts, and of course, listened to us.
What?
But
torture.
Torture. Yeah. That's what I was thinking too.
Hey, at least it keeps me awake.
That's good.
It's just like, oh God, Neil's voice is like nails on a chalkboard. No. Anyway, but so many of the podcasts that I listen to are, kind of interview based, and was listening to the Nerdist podcast with Chris Hardwick, and he was recently interviewing Ethan Hawke, and it was a great interview, and it was amazing to kind of like listen to this guy talk about his craft. And, he's just like, well, that's what kind of keeps me going. And then, as in just that one little phrase kind of like popped out. And it was more because I started to think about it because, here Neil, was going through a pretty big transition in his career later in life. But, and, anyway, sorry.
To what?
We're going to cut that part out of the show.
Anyway,
if you want to edit it, go right ahead.
But anyway,
we'll get there.
Here, this is a big change for him. He's going from working on his own to working for a firm, and there's lots of adjustments and things like that. And there's a lot of times when people are making changes like this that sometimes they just choose to move on and get out of the profession because, as we all know, it's a tough profession. And we keep coming back. And what I was curious about is what keeps us going? I mean, Neil, what made you decide, and I don't want to pick on you here, but
did enough of that in the last episode.
We didn't pick on you, did we?
Not picking on me.
Dang, I
anyway.
missed my opportunity then.
But get another one this episode.
Well, but okay. So I was there. Evan's been there. All three of us have worked for ourselves at one point in time in our career, and then we've gone on to go back and work for a larger firm and stuff. And the transition's pretty hard. And like we said last week, you're full of so much doubt about, did I fail or did I do this and that? And a lot of times people, no matter if it's our career or, other careers, when they're faced with things like that, people tend to give up and try something else or move on or whatever. But all three of us in countless hundreds, thousands more in the profession who've done similar things, we keep coming back. And we keep coming back because there's something that we love about the profession that just keeps us going. And I kind of, listening to this interview with Ethan Hawke and about just listening to his energy and stuff, every time we talk about architecture, whether it's pre-show, whether it's on the show, whether we're with our friends or whatever, we always talk about architecture with such passion and such, emotion that there's something that we love about this thing that keeps us coming back no matter how much shit, beats us down sometimes. We love it enough to come back. And so I was just curious, what is it that kind of kept, I'm going to direct this directly to you, Neil, first, is like, what kept you going, especially in the hard times?
That's a difficult question. If I had to, answering that honestly, it's what I know how to do. There's some things I know how to do, and there's a whole lot of other things I don't know how to do, or maybe I just don't want to do. But no, I think it's what I know how to do, and it doesn't seem. I mean, it's work, but it's something I can do. And it doesn't seem like work. I don't know that maybe that doesn't make any sense.
That's it. That's, so distill that essence of what, so it's a job. We all get paid for it, right?
Sure.
But I think it's come out, in numerous talks and numerous conversations throughout the years but it's not just job. There's more to it than that. And it's not just drawing a paycheck. I mean, anybody can get a job that just draws a paycheck, and then they go home, they shed off, their work outfit, and they can leave it all behind. And I think that we've made it perfectly clear. There's no way we leave it behind, even if we've detached or we're on vacation or we don't really ever leave it behind. So I think you're onto something by going a little bit further. Try to strain a little bit more out of you.
Well, I think we all care about what we do. I think we all care about the built environment, and I think that's what helps keep us going. At least maybe keeps me going. I care about what I do, and I can do it, and I want to do it, and so that's part of it. I think if I had to do something else, I really wouldn't know what else to do with my life. I've been doing this for a while now, so I guess if I had to start over again, what would I, going back to high school, what is it, the counselor, what are you going to do with your life? Here's what you're good at. And there's tests, that kind of will help you figure out, what you're good at or what you're going to want to, maybe what you can, what how am I trying to say this? What you can do, but that you have talents for. Yeah, but I think for me, it's what I can do, and there's times I enjoy it, and there's other times I don't. I mean, not everything goes well every single day, but that's kind of what keeps me going. It's what I can do, and it's what I've been doing, and kind of all I know how to do. I mean, that's kind of the start.
What about you, Evan? What kind of drives you to keep going, especially when faced with challenges and hardships or whatever else, kind of daily things that are being thrown at you?
Yeah, it's not an easy question to answer. I guess on one level it is, but to really think about it, it is not an easy question to answer because it's so varied. I mean, really, for me, I love learning new stuff. And I don't necessarily mean new facts or even new ways to do things. It's hard to explain. What I love is I love the process that I go through when I'm working on a building when I'm designing a building, and the things that I learn that I would never have come to the surface if I hadn't been engaged in that process. And because there's an easy way to design a building, and then there's like the way that I design a building. And I don't mean that like those are mutually exclusive. I just mean that they're, I hear it all the time. Well, why'd you do it like that when you could have just done it like this? And that's what I think is something that's so interesting about architecture, and I guess any art form, if you want to put those into one category, where I've always been intrigued by the fact that if two people were to take on the exact same project, it would come out completely differently. Like there might not be one thing that's the same. I mean, you know what I mean by that? So, and to me, that becomes more and more apparent the further I go on is I don't know why I get to do what I get to do, and why my decisions get to become the ones that, and I'm not saying that I'm the only one working on these projects. That's far from the truth. There's big teams involved. But when I have this design intent and it gets built, like that's ridiculous to me. And I don't know why I am the one who gets to say that, because it just blows my mind that I'm the person who's trusted with that pencil to initiate those ideas, or to synthesize those ideas, or to synthesize all the stuff that I hear from all the different users and the people who aren't even the users but are decision makers. And you put all that together and you come up with a thing that finally gets built. And what keeps me going, honestly, like the big thing that keeps me going is when I walk into it for the first time. And I don't even mean the finished product. I just mean like once the steel's up or once primary structure's up. It's like, holy crap, I'm totally getting away with something. And I've posted some pictures on Instagram and on my website or whatever. I mean, recently I have an elementary school under construction, and I walk into the multipurpose room, and it's got these big Alaskan yellow cedar beams. And there's like, holy crap, I can't believe they're actually building this. I totally got away with something. And even my friend Mark, he commented, I think we got away with something here. Because you look at it, and it's just gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's this perfect space, and these kids are going to love it. And even the superintendent of the school has said, when he goes, parents ask me all the time, what is it going to be like? Because before it even started construction, it was in planning for a while, and construction documents and all that stuff, and it's at the state and waiting, and everybody's like, what's it going to be like? And the anticipation's building. And he goes, I tell him, it's a school you've always dreamed of. And nice. For me to hear that and then to walk into this thing while it's under construction just blows my mind. And I just can't wait to do it again. And then I can't wait to do it again. And every project is completely different set of clients, different set of rules, different set of constraints, different team that I work with in the office. There's nothing better than that to me.
Both of you guys actually touched on, some of what I thought would be my responses if the question were asked to me.
Cormac.
Okay.
What keeps you going, Cormac?
So,
are you glad I asked?
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting question you asked there. The thing that I find so enjoyable about it is the challenge. And it's, obviously it's the challenge of, the constraints of different clients or the different constraints and the different clients and things like that. But it's the challenge of being able to immerse yourself in not only the built environment, but in somebody else's process, their life, their, what they do, we may not be doctors, but we get to work with doctors. When we're developing like a healthcare center or a hospital or something like that, we may not be teachers, but we get to work with teachers and see their passions and see what it is that drives them and keeps them coming back when we're designing a new school. And to be able to shape the thing that houses the opportunities for other people to do their jobs is absolutely the coolest thing that I could ever possibly imagine doing. Mm-hmm. I'm working on, and did I ever think 6 months ago, before I changed jobs, that I would be working on a chemistry building with a bunch of radial, nuclear, and laser-based chemistry scientists? No, not at all. But here I am learning about weird little things like microvibration and how it affects the instruments that they do their research on, and how the instruments that they do their research on is the ground is the basis for some subatomic level biological research, and how that biological research then feeds off to something else. And here I am, I'm helping shape their surroundings so that they can help somebody else do something else and do something else, and we're a part of it. We may not be the guy sitting there staring under the microscope and stuff, but we're helping facilitate that guy to actually be doing that. And it's so cool. I mean, I think one of the most enriching and rewarding things that I had ever done was when I took an old building that everybody went to school, or went to work every day in, a 118-year-old building, and it was just beat up, worn out, run down. And it was there. It had some character, but it was kind of tired, and you could see that in the looks of the people who went and worked there every day. They were kind of over it. They were just really, it was something, they just didn't like it. Yeah. Whatever. And then, so 5 years of my life was spent dedicated to basically resurrecting that building, reshaping the building, but trying to at least keep the essence of the building, what was the real character of the building, and then reshaping it for them so that they can essentially take this 118-year-old building and teach for another 118 years. And so when some of these teachers came in and they actually started crying, not because it's still around, but that it's the essence of what they know. But it was so much better, and they started crying, and then they came up and they hugged me because they loved it.
Well, that's how you know it's architecture, right there.
And that's
you
that's
created an emotional response in people through the built environment.
I was
awesome.
Absolutely amazed at how many times people were like crying over when the librarian walked into her new library, when she was in this small tiny box and made do for almost a decade in this tiny little room, just with everything on top of her and stuff like that. And then tripled, quadrupled the space, but then it had this panoramic view of the state capitol building all the way to the U.S. Naval Academy and the water and everything else. And she walks into this thing, and it was kind of heavenly music started to play, and and she started. I looked at her, and I could just see the tears welling up in her eyes, and she was just like, "It's amazing. I love this place." She goes, "I'm never quitting this place. I will never transfer from this place. They will have to drag me out of this place." And it was just like, okay, that's what keeps me going, because at the end of the day, what I do had an effect on that person's life. As weird as it sounds, I mean, we may not think, when we're in the trenches doing the DDs and CDs and cranking out specs and all this other stuff, how it's really going to affect it. Because, Neil, you were talking about there's those good days and those bad days, and, and there's a lot of just days in, putting together a set of construction documents and stuff. But it's, as you said, Evan, it's when you get out there and you start to see it take shape. You see the steel that you had envisioned in your head when you were doing that little sketch, and how it all comes together. And then the user group comes in, and they're just filled with wonder. They're like, "Oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen." Or, the quote that you used about this is the greatest school, or that I've ever imagined. Or I'm sorry, I got the quote wrong, but
it's okay.
But I mean, it was just and that's, that to me is the just the driving force, because at the end of the day, we get to create.
Exactly. Yep.
And I don't know how to explain, any other feeling. I mean, parents, You know, it's almost like that, to be quite honest with you.
Well, these are our babies. Yeah.
These are our babies. I mean, you know, there's whereas, you know, I guess, you know, when you're a parent, you know, you don't really have a say in how, once the baby's, you know, out there, you know, it's all influenced and everything else, you know, it's just an amazing thing. You know, I was looking at my sons, you know, my middle child just turned 13, and I'm looking at him, I'm looking at baby pictures, and I'm like, wow, how did I get here?
Yeah.
You know?
It's crazy.
And, but then, you know, and it's almost that same kind of amazement when you're standing there and you know, maybe you've spent, like, the project as a whole that I spent 5 years on, where it was 8 years in the making.
Yep.
So for 8 years, people, and literally, like, you know, that's the life of my daughter right now. And over the course of 8 years, I've seen my daughter go from a baby to just this, you know, wonderful little girl. And in that same time, a building has been trying to be built.
Got to have a lot of patience.
Wow.
Yeah. And when it was finally built, and, you know, the emotion that it struck, and you know, I was even getting, like, people in historic downtown Annapolis were saying, you know, this is a great kind of, like, rebirth of a building that, you know, more or less just had no real part in, you know, our neighborhood, because it was just a building that looked like it was falling in on itself, to now, you know, be, you know, really kind of reinvigorating. Thank you very much. It's you know, the next day for me, you guys are still working in yesterday. Anyway, you know where I was going.
We'll give you a pass.
Thanks. But yeah. Hey, did I tell you I'm working on a permit set and I've got no sleep?
You of all people.
Me of all people.
Yeah.
No. But you know, it's again, like I said, and I've been droning on about it, but honestly, that really, to me, anytime I start talking about that excitement, we had a friend of mine from work who he came into the office. He took a short little family, like I think it was like a 5-day kind of like a little road trip with his family. You know, kind of stopped into New York and went up to Boston, and, you know, tooled around and he went to Exeter, and he went to, you know, a couple of different places, and, you know, a couple of different buildings at Harvard, and you know, seen a whole bunch of, like, H.H. Richardson's work, and, you know, it was just the look on his face and how invigorated he was when he was looking at this thing, and he was talking about, you know, how much he appreciates Khan, and then he was talking about just this feeling that he gets every time he visits, and he's, I guess, made a pilgrimage or two to the Salk Institute. And I remember, and I started telling him stories about how you were telling me stories about how invigorated you were when you were at the Salk, and that's what we hope for.
Yep.
Right? You know, at the end of the day, that's kind of what we hope for. A lot of times we may not, you know, hit a home run with some of the buildings that we do. You know, they may be, they're good, but are they great? You know, we may not think so, but we're usually our worst critics and stuff like that. But honestly, it's, you know, when we can really kind of see these buildings and be a part of that whole process, and say, people may not think about where they walk and what they do every day and all that other stuff, but we do.
Yep, totally.
Hey, well, let's take a quick break and talk about how some of this gets done. How about something that will help you get it done? You know, we're all pretty busy, and sometimes we feel like we could use another hand, you know, to help out, right? So how would you like someone to help you out to draw CAD details? Maybe even create some of those BIM objects all you guys are doing in Revit? How about maybe writing specifications for you? You know, Cormac, you do a lot of that. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun. But how about if somebody helps you do this? How about you get this quote unquote, and yes, I'm doing air quotes, assistance to do some of this work for you for free? ARCAT is your answer, and ARCAT has already done this work for you. Search the ARCAT libraries for CAD, BIM, specs, catalogs, videos, and more. All of this content is created for you, free of charge, with no registration required. Stop registering on sites for content. Just come to ARCAT and find what you need. ARCAT has created a website devoted to you, the building professional, to find building product information fast and hassle-free. Check out ARCAT today at arcat.com. And again, thanks to ARCAT for sponsoring this episode of ArcaSpeak. And even if you're a student, you can go to ARCAT, find out about some of the stuff that you're, materials that you're designing with. This is how you find out, because this is what you will be doing when you get out in the field, or I should say, get out into into the profession. This is the resource you're going to be using. So get used to it now and be checking it out, and maybe impress some of your classmates or your instructors by referring to something that's real. So
and trust me,
definitely recommend it. So go check out ARCAT at arcat.com.
And like I said, I'm working towards a permit submission, and realizing that I'm missing a detail or two, and sure enough, where was the first place I went? ARCAT. And sure enough, what was I able to do? Pull down a Revit family to drop into my model and actually help get that detail done. The read does say it best that it's essentially a one-stop shop, and they know as well as we do that you can't find everything there. And the great thing about ARCAT is if you can't find it there, let them know, and they'll make sure that they can get it there. But you'd be surprised at how much stuff is actually there. If you're looking, and we were looking for recessed paneled garage doors, and where did we go? Right there, because we could find everything that we needed. We were missing some details. We found all the details that we needed there. We were missing the spec. We found the spec there. Why reinvent the wheel when the wheel's out there for you, and just you can get out there and you can turn it and find what you need?
ARCAT is the architect's set of wheels.
There you go.
That's awesome. Hey, but something you both of you mentioned in talking about what kind of drives you is something I'm gonna say I need to do this more. But I think it's a great suggestion for everybody listening. Is that getting out and seeing some architecture?
Oh yeah.
You guys both mentioned, or you mentioned, the Salk Institute. I think one of the things that I remember, fondly is getting out and seeing architecture. I mean, when I lived in Europe, you were surrounded by a lot of, I wouldn't say always great, but certainly much different architecture than what I was used to being experienced living here on the West Coast, or growing up out here on the West Coast of the United States. So, it's all very inspiring. And so regardless of the type of work that you do, maybe it's residential or maybe it is commercial or industrial, get out and see something. And I think that's something I need to do a little bit more of, and that can kind of maybe take away from some of the drudgery that can come up during the day. Get out, go visit, go walk a project. Go get inspired by seeing something that, something of great architecture.
I agree. I think, a lot of people look to websites and stuff for inspiration, and they cruise through ArcDaily or Dezeen or Design Milk or whatever. And that's really just, the digital equivalent of flipping through a magazine. I get magazine subscriptions, and they come in the mail, and I don't even open them up. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
But I do make time to go visit architecture, and I have a couple of blog posts on my site. I guess I'll include the links in the show notes. One of them was going down to the Salk, and we hit Geisel Library at San Diego, and we went down to the Neurosciences Institute by Todd Williams, Billy Chen Architects. Man, it was just like, I'm walking around with my camera, and my wife's with me, and she's off doing her thing because she knows that she can't stop me from taking pictures. And as I put together a slideshow so that I could inspire people in the office because they weren't with me, and I feel like Like, it is our job to get out and experience architecture. Like, we have to experience it so that we can create experiences for other people. It's really difficult to do that when you're in the computer all the time, right? When you are staring at the blue light all day long, it's just you don't have a good sense of scale. You've got to get in space, and you've got to figure out how tall that thing is or how big that space is, and you've got to count joint lines, and you've got to pace it off, and you've got to figure that stuff out for yourself so that you know what spaces feel like, so that when you're designing them, they don't come out stupid.
Right.
It's just really important to get out there. I'm glad you brought that up, Neil, because it's huge to get out and experience architecture. And what you were talking about earlier, Cormac, when you said the librarian just started crying, and when I said, you created an emotional response, that's how I know I'm in a piece of architecture, like capital A architecture, is when it sits me on my butt and makes me say, whoa, that to me is architecture. And I've experienced that many times, and I'm amazed at the variation in the designs that will make that happen to me. And there's no shortage of it in urban areas, I think. If you go to where you are, Cormac, I mean, it's happened to me many times there. It's happened at the Holocaust Museum. It's happened at the National Museum of Art. It's happened to me at the Lincoln Memorial and all these places. And then you go to LA or Chicago or San Francisco. It happens all the time. In other areas, you have to search for it, and you've got to find it. I mean, I was out in Tempe, Arizona a few weeks ago, and we were at a conference, my friend and I, and we hooked up with this landscape architect who said, I know where a Terrell Sky Space is. Let's go find it. And we walked out and we found it, and we just sat there, and we experienced that space. And it's an outdoor space, and it was just phenomenal. And it was the first time that my friend had been to one of those. Luckily, we have one right here in our town, but it did not disappoint, and even though I've experienced that type of thing before, because it was different. It was in a different environment, and it was just an amazing, invigorating, inspiring thing to do as an architect. So,
did you take your sketchbook?
I did not have my sketchbook, but I had my phone, and I took pictures. I took lots of pictures.
Well, it's funny is that even with somebody who is a prolific sketcher as myself, rarely ever does architectural sketches, a lot of times I really just want to be in the space. I want to experience the space without sitting there and trying to scribble it down. So honestly, the phone, the camera in hand, is to me a good way to capture it, and then just kind of keep the emotion of what it is as part of it. I never, like I said, as much as I sketch, I never really feel like I can capture the emotion that, just the memory itself. And honestly, that to me is just as much of what you said, Evan, about capital A architecture. I mean, that's how I know I'm in the right place, is when it evokes an emotional response. I was thinking, when you were talking about, traveling around and seeing more architecture, experience different architecture and things like that, I always think about how and I don't know if you guys felt this way, but when you're going into school or you're in school or whatever, and they're like, oh, well, what are you studying? Like, well, studying architecture. And they're like, oh, do you want to be the next Frank Lloyd Wright? And for some reason, that always kind of turned me off on Frank Lloyd Wright. And I was just like, ugh, I don't want to be like Frank Lloyd Wright. Frank Lloyd Wright, he's a hack, blah, 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 and all this other stuff. It was only until I actually started experiencing all of his work and stuff, and how many different phases of, of style and just the spaces that he created, that I actually gained so much respect for this guy and so much admiration for somebody who, sure, he's an interesting character and all of that other stuff, but you cannot deny that this guy did not create some really wonderful spaces and stuff. And sure, they were built for somebody his height, not my height, but whatever. But I mean,
I can sympathize with that. I've been to some of Frank's buildings.
But the thing about it is that you really can't truly understand a space from a magazine, from a web page. I mean, you may be able to, ooh, that's pretty, and you're reacting viscerally to the image that you see.
We all know those images have all been photoshopped anyway.
Oh, exactly. I bet you can't find a single air handling unit in there.
I was just going to say, where's the air handlers?
Exactly. But, but that's what's great about, like, getting out there, because to bring it home to what kind of, like, motivates you, drives you, and, inspires you and stuff, and kind of keeps you going, visiting other people's work. And if it's at the very least, going there with a critical eye of either, wow, this is really good, or, oh, man, what a miss, or
what not to do, yeah.
Or what not to do. But you know what? To be quite honest with you, that's just as much
it's valuable
of a value. Yeah, exactly, is a value than as being completely blown away by it. I do appreciate being blown away a little bit more than like, oh, this is disappointing, kind of. But still, I mean, there's valuable tools and valuable things to kind of keep you going, because you're like, I'm not going to do that space,
Yeah.
But you can't underscore the value of getting out there and really kind of experience other people's work, because that's what motivates me to kind of do better. It's like, wow, I really thought that the last project I did was good, but I'm looking at this, and this is what good is. Here's the definition of good, and what I did, I don't know what the hell that was.
Yeah, I do kind of obsess over good design. It's,
exactly, and sometimes I even get, I won't say clinically, but I do get depressed over bad design.
Yeah,
about like, wow, I appreciate the pretty. As base as that sounds, I really appreciate the pretty, and I think that being able to be motivated to help create the pretty is a driving force for me too.
Again, we're kind of lucky to have a bunch of really high-end colleges right here in our town. There's 5 or 6 of them. And when you came out and visited, we kind of walked around a few of them, right? Yeah. And just to be able to walk through a Raphael Vignoli project is, to many people, it might just be some boxes stacked on top of each other. But to me, it's like, oh my God, like how did they connect the tread to the railing to the to the guardrail, that's all glass, and just those fine details that make me, not everybody, but I want to be able to pull that off, and I can really appreciate what has been put into the thoughtfulness of that design, and to be able to walk it, and again, not just look at it in a magazine, is the difference to me between what keeps me going and just something to pass the time. 2 completely different experiences for me.
Something else I'd like to mention too that kind of helps and I don't know, inspire me, but then also keeps me going is working with others in the office. For instance, or collaborating maybe with others in the office to solve those problems, to come up with that hopefully great design or good design, right? That can be inspiring too. Like if you're banging your head against a problem or something's just not working, you're trying to figure something out, you go talk to a colleague in the office and they go, well, let's look at it this way. Or, what if, did you, you have the pieces here and one little tweak or just a different perspective. And suddenly you're like, oh yeah, that's it. That we're creating something. And that process, you kind of figured it out, and that process can be very inspiring. So you can get that from other people that you work with, hopefully. Yeah, that helps. I had that experience, just the other day. So, and that can give you a really good feeling, and hopefully brush away some of that depression that you get from the bad stuff or from something that's not good. Exactly.
Well, hey, let's take a second out of the show here to give a warm welcome to our new sponsor, DBI, which is David Brown International. And I know everybody's been waiting to hear what DBI is since Neil first talked about them at the beginning of the show. So let's talk about them. Finding the right talent to join your firm in this exceptionally competitive market can feel like an impossible task. I know this is something that we talk about in our office all the time. The talent war is on, and that's we talk about that a lot. With everything you already have to do to run your business every day, you need a trusted partner that knows your industry and has a proven track record of success. DBI is the global leader in executive recruiting and consulting for the architecture and interior design industry. With unmatched industry knowledge and a vast network of world-class architecture and design leaders, influencers, and talent, DBI provides global recruiting, staffing, and strategy. Does your firm need to hire talent? Is your in-house HR team looking for support? Perhaps you want to build a brand designed to attract talent on your own? DBI understands the importance of having the right design talent in the right job at the right time. Their professional team ensures that every search is tailored to the specific needs of your firm. DBI is dedicated to delivering the highest quality results. So whether you're an architecture or design firm interested in finding your next great hire, or you are an architect that is looking to make the next career move, so we're hitting everybody here who's listening to this podcast, DBI is the right partner to help you find success. Learn more and contact the team at DBI today at their website, www.dbifirm, that's David Brown International firm.com, or call 888-774-9161. That's 888-774-9161. And we'll have all of the contact information for them in the show notes and on the episode page of our site. So if you missed that, you can always check there. At DBI, as they say, placement is everything. So check out DBI. Let them know that you heard about them on ArchiSpeak, and see what options are available to you in your area. Thanks, DBI, for becoming a sponsor of the ArchiSpeak podcast, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This is good. I think everybody who listens to this show can get something out of contacting them or checking out their website. So, Cormac, what other sort of things inspire you that keep you going? I think there's something I know. I think your sketches keep you going.
They do, but that's kind of I guess in a way, it's always been a little cathartic mental break.
I think Cormac's sketches keep other people going.
I know I like them.
I think they honestly do. I'm not joking.
You know what? It was actually funny is that I was talking to a friend of my sister's when I was down in Florida not too long ago, and they're like, I miss seeing your daily sketch. You should start doing those daily sketches. And
you should work harder, Cormac.
I was explaining to him, like, as much as I enjoyed doing them, it's work really to kind of
and when you have that pressure of that daily thing, man, that's tough. That's tough to do.
I found myself in what he was referring to was just my the little daily post-it note, and those things may only be 3 inches by 3 inches, but it's still a blank page that you've got to fill. And I found myself sometimes sitting on the couch like
stressing out
at 11 o'clock at night, like, I really got to get this thing done before midnight. And I always made like this pact that I got to get it done and posted before midnight, or it didn't count.
That's why you got to spend like an hour on a Saturday and do 5 or 6 of them.
Well, but see, that was another pact that I made with myself, is I would not draw ahead. I would force myself, because it's a rigor that I was kind of missing, is trying to, that whole stick to it, because I would always start a drawing and then stop a drawing and never really finish a drawing. And in this particular case, it was all about, one, I was kind of getting back into drawing because I hadn't drawn for years and years. And I used to walk around with a sketchbook all the time, but it never, I'd never finished a sketchbook before. I'd always leave it, half filled with half drawn stuff. And, I was like, if I'm going to start this up, I'm going
to become a completist all of a sudden.
Exactly. And I really kind of pushed myself to, again, start small with the 3x3s. And what's interesting, though, is that, you may not see them all, I won't post everything, but I do fill my sketchbooks. I've actually filled, I always I start a sketchbook and then I put it down, and I start another sketchbook and put it down. But, like the sketchbook that I got for free from the AIA conference last year, it's completely filled. And another one that I started around the same time, that one's filled. And I've filled like, probably about 4 of them since, kind of like the last time we all met.
Wow.
And I just got a new sketchbook and just started breaking it in. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to finish the sketch that I started because I say something about that permit submission. I don't know if I mentioned I'm working at a permit submission.
I was going to say you're recording a podcast, but sometimes you sketch when we're recording. So
sometimes I do. Not that
so
I don't.
Cormac, I'm curious, is there a place somebody can go to see that year of sketches that you did?
Don't you have a Flickr page or something?
I have a Flickr, Tumblr. What is the? Wow, I've forgotten it. What's the?
We'll just throw it in the show notes.
We'll throw it in the show notes.
Yeah,
but basically,
that's Flickr. Yeah.
Okay, Flickr and Tumblr, but mostly you can just go to my Instagram page because that's where they all start. I post them on Instagram and then have it mass post everywhere else.
Yeah.
And then you can also see my photographs. Been getting really into kind of doing the black and whites. Kind of inspired by the stuff that you do, Evan.
Yeah,
because I know that you are extraordinarily into and very good at photography.
Thanks, man. I was going to talk a little bit about something that keeps me going or got me going over the weekend. I rarely have time to sit around and watch TV, but man, I watched Citizen Architect this weekend for the first time.
Damn, I thought you were going to say Daredevil. Okay.
Yeah. I saw it on there. It was just one of those. There's lots of architectural documentaries that make me rethink my life, and this was one of them. Man, it was, and it really reminded me of being at the AIE convention last year and going to the Auburn the alumni event. Yeah. I was about to say reunion, but that's not right. It was for you.
It was for me.
But man, when they played that short film there, I felt something, and I guess that's maybe the theme here for me is this inner excitement, longing, yearning, and to me, that's how you know you're really connected to something, right? And Neil, even when you were in the very beginning talking about it's what you know, it really just reminded me of relationships. And I honestly have this crazy relationship with architecture, right? And sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's the worst thing ever, and but we keep coming back to it. And so when I watched this film over the weekend, I think I texted you guys right when it was done, and I'm just I feel like I'm wasting my life. I honestly felt like if I could do anything, I want to be involved in something like that. I want to be involved in something that, and I know it's not all rosy all the time. It just makes me feel like there is this connection to the work and this connection to the universe that I just don't have every single day. And it's not like I'm going to go out and change my career right away, but there are things like that, and there are projects, and there are movies that I watch that aren't architectural documentaries where I just feel like I'm not exactly in the right spot, but this thing gave me a glimpse of what that could be for me.
Right.
And so, like I said, it's not just this particular documentary. It's certain movies that I see where I'm just blown away by that somebody made this thing. A lot of times it's me listening to music by myself with the set of headphones on, where it's just so perfect, and it is such the right time to hear what I heard. I have that artistic longing to make something that has that much meaning for me and for other people.
Well, I even got that when I was out with you guys at MDC, and
I was going to bring that up.
We were listening to Rand Elliott, and this guy delivers this, this lecture. I don't even was really a lecture, just a presentation of his work, but the thing that was so amazing is the passion that he brought to just showing why he does what he does. Kind of reinvigorates you and kind of almost reintroduces you to that spark that got you going.
Yep.
You know, and I told you guys I felt like it felt to me as I was as charged and like amped up as I was coming out of a Rocky movie. I wanted to go punch some architecture. You know, it was awesome. I mean, it was just like, yeah, come on, let's go beat something up.
It's that total like connection when all of the right things happen at exactly the right time.
Right.
And you just feel it, like it's the buzz in the air, it's the energy in the room, it's all that stuff coming together at that one time where it's just like, this is why I do what I do. This is what I aspire to do. This is what I want to do better, and I'm going to do that starting now. That kind of a feeling. And when we have that connection with architecture, it's just like, you know, I'm watching a documentary on the Foo Fighters, and they have it with their music. I mean, there's so many examples of this kind of a thing where I think it all does come back to this creative process that we're really intimately involved with, and you know, it is total relationship status kind of a thing. Very cool stuff. I mean, that really, to me, when you said, let's talk about what keeps us going, I definitely thought about that talk at MDC by Rand Elliott. It was so amazing. And every time I go to the MDC, there's one of those. It's like, okay, this is why I came to this. And you can't get that anywhere else. I mean,
it was
so awesome.
Everything was, I mean, the setting, the people, you know, everything about it, you know, and just like, at MDC, you know, all
people are probably wondering what MDC is. It's Monterey Design Conference in California. It's every 2 years. So
there you go. So
yeah,
the Monterey Design Conference. So when we were there and we were just at the actual place it was all held, and just like all of these different, you know, buildings, you know, that just kind of, you know, were arranged just so that, you know, there was like these nice little like gathering spaces that were kind of like off the beaten path, and you know, you just could sit there and have good conversation. And you know, I mean, I don't know how many times we had conversations with people that we had never met them before, you know, and all that other stuff, but they shared a like mind that we did, you know, and we just kind of got talking about architecture. And you know, that right there alone, just the spontaneous conversation about architecture kind of let you know that you're, you know, one, you're not alone. And two, that, you know, there's people out there that kind of get your neuroses, kind of get your, you know, understand you and understand why, you know, looking at a door or looking at a window or looking at a whole building and stuff kind of like charges you up and says, yeah, that's great. I love this.
Yeah. Stuff that other people look at you and go like, you're crazy.
Like, yeah. You know, that's just a doorknob, right?
Yeah.
I think we're all energized now, and it's time to go to bed.
No,
so.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Let's go punch something.
Let's go. Well, let's not go. Let's go punch the website of our sponsors. How about that? Let's big shout out and thanks to ARCAT at arcat.com and to DBI, David Brown International at dbifirm.com. So thank them both for sponsoring this episode of ArchiSpeak, and visit our website at archispeakpodcast.com for links to our catalog of episodes. You can also sign up for our newsletter that includes links to everything we mentioned in the episode, and we don't ever spam you with anything else, just that newsletter. Between episodes, join the conversation by leaving comments at archispeakpodcast.com for each episode, or on our Facebook page, or even through Twitter. Links can be found by visiting the site at archispeakpodcast.com.
Hey, I have a quick little thing that we should plug the mug. You know what I'm saying?
Plug the mug.
Plug the mug. If you need a coffee mug, you should check out the ArchiSpeak coffee mug, because it's architecture is the happy poop. That's what my kid said. Does that mean architecture is the happy poop?
It is the happy poop.
It is. So go over to archispeakpodcast.com/store, and on that page you'll see various items, including the mug. So check it out. And that's it for me.
Get your happy poop.
Get your happy poop. All right. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
or you can hang your head in despair. It's young and